The night I record this is August 14th, and it's been 2.5 weeks since July 28th when I left my summer internship out in North Carolina. And back about a quarter of the way through the season with the Swamp Foxes, I think it was after a game at Reedsville, I was on the way back, and I just thought to myself, like, is this summer, like, even real right now? Is this even happening to me? Just because I was having so much fun, and I don't really know how to start this video, just because I have so much that I want to say to everyone that helped make this summer what it was for me. This is really just my big, long way of saying thank you to everyone that I interacted with this summer out in North Carolina in the Old North State League. It's been 2.5 weeks, and I think about it, and it all feels like a dream, just with how well it went and all the great relationships I made. And some days, like, I almost believe that it wasn't real, because it meant so much to me, and it just went so well. And then when I wake up to go to the bathroom in the morning, I look myself in the mirror and I see this, and I'm reminded, holy crap, that actually did happen. So it's been 2.5 weeks since I left my job. I'm an RA at Iowa State now. I have been so beyond busy these last 2 weeks. It's the busiest I've been in my entire life, and I've been meaning to make this for a while now, but I just needed enough time to give this video the time and attention that it deserves, because, again, this is my way of just saying thank you. And there aren't enough words for me to say thank you to everyone that I interacted with this summer. It's just, I cannot believe that I was a part of something so amazing out in Marion, North Carolina, with all those guys. Every person that I worked with, all the players that I got to interact with daily, all the staff out there, all the great staff around the whole Old North State League. I just want to take time and say thank you. Like, this summer was one of the best stretches of time I've had in my entire life, and that is after a global pandemic that was really hard on me, honestly. Like, I didn't socialize a lot. I just kind of kept my head down and hoped for the best during COVID, and COVID kind of took a break, like, for me when I went out to North Carolina. Like, I got to start really living in the real world again, and a big reason of that is because of the Swamp Foxes and everybody that worked with and around that. So I'm gonna stop rambling about the summer as a whole, and I'm just going to start thanking people individually. And the very first person that I need to thank is the man who hired me, Will Dalton. So I've got a whole notepad here of things that I just wanted to remember. I've been working on this video for months. Like, I want to make sure that I remember every detail about everyone, like everything that they did, and just give everybody individually the thanks they deserve, starting off with Will, who hired me. So he held my phone interview all the way back in December, and I remember sitting down with my parents to talk about how my phone interviews went, because I had 6 total. I could have ended up anywhere from Kentucky to Florida, or even other spots in there. Those were my 6 finalists, and I remember sitting at my dining room table at my dad's house talking with my mom and dad. I really narrowed it down to 2 spots, like the spot I ended up in Marion, North Carolina, and then a spot in a summer league in Florida. And I remember we weighed the pros and cons a lot, and it honestly boiled down to where I ended up in North Carolina. And I remember reaching out to Will, telling him that I got the job, and he was so excited. He was so excited for me. He was excited for the league. And just the reaction that he had, it was so genuine and wholesome, his reaction when I signed on. So that meant a lot from him. And Will was fantastic the whole summer. He was the broadcaster for the High Point Hush Puppies, and he was also the head broadcast coordinator amongst all the broadcasters. He was one of 13 around the league. I was the one for Marion. but he always did his best to like make sure everybody had what they needed, answer any questions. Super chill guy, so awesome to be around. And it always meant a lot to me when like I helped out the group. I made sure I helped out where I couldn't, and he always made sure to like publicly thank me, like in our broadcaster group chat we had. So that just meant a lot to get appraisal from him. I was just doing my job. Well, I was helping out everybody else, doing a few things too, just to make sure we had all of our bases covered. But whenever Will thanked me, it meant a lot, because it kind of showed that the guy who hired me all the way back in the winter, it felt like his decision was really validated when he was thanking me like that. So I really appreciated that from Will. But yeah, Will's the one who started all this by hiring me, and I really appreciate that. And the next guy I have to thank is, I guess, the guy I worked for directly, but it didn't really feel like it because we were always so chill with each other. The Swamp Fox manager, Riley Hall. Riley was freaking awesome. Like, he was so on top of things. He always had his stuff in on time. He was always getting sponsorships for the team, making sure that post-game meals were organized. He was juggling a lot with that this season, doing a few other things. But the thing that meant the most to me about Riley is he always made sure that I got a little bit of extra money working. I got paid by the hour doing broadcasts. And over the whole of the summer, it wasn't a ton of money, but I never did this internship for the money. I did it for the experience and the relationships that I would build. But Riley always made sure that he logged a little bit of extra time under my name just to make sure that I got a little bit more money. And that always meant a lot. So thank you, Riley, for getting me more money. That meant a lot. But he was so great at his job. All the guys loved him. And he was just one of the great GMs I worked for this summer. I filled in various spots around the league over the year. I filled in Lexington once. I filled in Mecklenburg several times. I broadcasted a playoff game in Hendersonville, but I worked with a lot of great managers or general managers this summer for different teams. The four that I highlighted were Katie Borshak of Mecklenburg, Rick Cook of Lexington, Mark Emery of Hendersonville, and Charlie Tortorici of Lenore. So I probably worked with /for the most Katie Borshak in Mecklenburg. I filled in for 3 games there, including the quote-unquote all-star game that was rained out. I did a home run derby there, but Katie was always super accommodating. She always made sure that myself and whoever else was working had everything they needed. And when I was done like doing my duties for her this summer, like she flat out said, like, if you need any recommendations at all, like, just let me know. So she's up for writing me a recommendation somewhere, anywhere in minor league baseball, and that really means a lot. So thank you, Katie, if you somehow find this video and are watching this. Rick in Lexington was awesome. We had some great conversations over the year when I was there, both filling in for a Lexington Flying Pigs game or when the Swamp Foxes were at Lexington. They were there several times this year, but Rick was awesome. He loved explaining the history of Holt Moffett Field to me. There's some really cool history behind that ballpark in Lexington, North Carolina. There's a lot of cool history. Look up Holt Moffett Field on the internet and just dig into the rich history of that ballpark. Rick taught me a lot of that, and he was just a super cool guy to be around. So yeah. Mark Emery in Hendersonville. Mark was so nice. He was so fantastic. And I will just say that I went to a majority of ballparks in the Old North State League, and Mark Emery and the crew in Hendersonville put together the best game day experience as a whole. They've got great concessions over there. Mark was always great at getting fantastic sponsorships in town. There was a YMCA day that was super fun. There was a couple of other fun games in there as well. And Mark always made sure that even when I wasn't working, which was most of the time I was in Hendersonville, he always made sure that he found me and made sure that I had something to eat during the post-game meals that were provided to the players. He always made sure that I got enough food for me, more than enough food for me. He always made sure I had enough food, so that meant a lot. So Mark was awesome. Loved working with him. I filled in for the Lenore Legends one game. It was actually a Swamp Foxes Legends game. I filled in for the Legends one night, and Charlie, their GM, he was very accommodating to me. He popped in a few times during the game in the booth just to make sure I had everything. Made sure that I got some food after the game too. So Charlie was super awesome. So those are just a few of the great managers around the league. I didn't have a chance to meet them all, but the management was just fantastic, and it was a huge part of why the league was as successful as it was this summer. I've got to thank the league president, CEO, Alec Allred. He juggled so much this summer. I probably don't even know all of the stuff he juggled, but he did a great job, and it was always a treat to help him out wherever I could. We communicated directly on a few things over the summer just to make sure that the league had everything organized. Standings wise, that was a big one we made sure we had right. But he offered me to come back to the league whenever I had a chance after college. And honestly, I'm hoping I can make it back to the Old North State League. But Alec kind of welcomed me back. He said if I wanted to come back, he'd find me something. So I really appreciate that from Alec. And now we get more into the Swamp Fox side of things. And the very first guy that I have to thank on the Swamp Foxes is the guy that I was cabin mates with, assistant coach Trip Kimmel. Trip was a fantastic roommate. We shared the cabin so well. We never really fought about anything. We just shared the space so well. And I think I've shared this with Trip, but I truly believe that a huge part of the success the Swamp Foxes had this year, the Swamp Foxes were a top tier team in the league. I truly believe a large part of the Swamp Fox's success this summer was because of Trip. Trip was always, and I mean always, helping out the guys. He would throw batting practice and hit grounders to them until his arms fell off every day. He would spend late nights at the facility at Big League Camp, just doing his thing, helping out guys. He would just hang out with them, like get to know them more, get more insight about who they were just as a player and as a person. And the relationships he built with the players, I truly believe helped propel the Foxes to how good they were this year. So I truly believe that Trip was, I think secret weapon is the wrong word, but that's the best term that I can come up with at the moment. So Trip was just fantastic and a huge part of the team this summer. And then I have to thank Coach Klaus. He's just a super chill, down-to-earth guy. He loves baseball more than life itself. He came out, he just got a job at Western Illinois, and he came from Coker in South Carolina, and he just came out and he just did his thing. Like, he wasn't super strict. He had expectations. He had reasonable expectations. He was big about if you were going to win a ball game, you were going to do it the right way, be classy about it, be a classy ball club. He was really big on that. But we worked together on a few things this year. One big thing I did over the year was make sure that stats for the Swamp Foxes were organized, because it kind of got jumbled stat-wise around the league this year, just with information coming from a lot of places. I never missed a game. When I wasn't broadcasting, I was always making game notes, and Coach Klaus really appreciated that. He made sure that after one of my final broadcasts this year, my final broadcast with the Swamp Foxes, that first-round playoff game in Hendersonville that the Foxes unfortunately lost, he made sure to catch me before I drove back to Marion, and we had a nice moment before I took off. We shook hands, and he just said how much he appreciated what I did, and that meant a lot to me that he made sure that he saw me, and we had a chance to say some more goodbyes that following morning when a lot of the guys started to leave. He drove back that next morning, but Coach Klaus was so awesome to be around, another great guy to work with. I have to thank there's 4 owners of Big League Camp, the ball complex that myself and the Swamp Foxes were housed at this summer. One of those owners, the owner that really interacted with us the most, was Dennis Whitson, and I have to put his wife Jennifer in there too, because she was a huge part of the Swamp Foxes, like, really well-being over at Big League Camp. But Dennis and Jennifer were so accommodating all summer. They were actually the first people that I met. My dad helped me drive down to North Carolina at the end of May, and we were just walking around the facility, just taking it all in. And we bumped into Dennis. He was taking out trash, like he was helping out around the facility, and he introduced us to Jennifer, and they toured us around the facility. They made sure that we had everything we needed. not just when my dad stopped by, but when all the Swamp Fox players came in. Like there's a lot of upkeep when you have like 25, 30 guys all living together between all the staff and the players, just living at those cabins at Big League Camp. They always made sure everything was in order. One really cool thing, the very first weekend that me and Tripp were there, at least the first weekend I was there, I remember Dennis talked to me and really all the staff, and he was very nice in explaining, is like, we're gonna have to move you guys, me and Tripp, to a different spot this weekend because there was some sort of like kids camp with baseball coming in, and one of the coaches' cabins had to be used. So I'll move over for this next part. So Dennis lent me and Tripp his camper for a weekend, and it was a nice camper. So he felt bad for quote unquote upending us from the cabin, but he gave us his camper to stay in that weekend, and it was fantastic. The beds in there were so comfy, and I really just appreciated that Dennis did that for us. So Dennis and Jennifer were fantastic. Jennifer was one of the first people to check up on me when I was in the hospital getting stitched up from my fun incident this summer. She said that one of the staff members let her in on what happened because I was on the complex when it happened. She checked in on me, made sure I was okay, and I think she got my number from somebody from something, but she checked in on me, so that meant a lot. She was one of the first people to check up on me, even though she wasn't at the facility. She heard about it right after it happened, and when I was checking my phone, waiting to get stitched up, I saw that she messaged me, and we exchanged a few good texts. So just a huge thanks to Dennis and Jennifer Whitson for just being fantastic hosts of myself and the Foxes this summer. I have to thank all of my fellow broadcasters. I didn't have a chance to work directly with everyone this year. We all had a broadcaster group chat. We tried to send scores to each other right after games were over, help out with other things along those lines, helping getting broadcasts set up if those were doing something weird on the broadcast website. I didn't have a chance to work with everybody, and I'm not going to list everybody by name. I'm just going to list the guys that I worked with directly. But to all the broadcasters out there, thank y'all for being a great crew. It was so much fun working with everybody, even if some of us didn't get to meet. It was a lot of fun. But the first broadcaster I want to thank by name is Brad Green. He was an older gentleman that broadcasted for the Lexington Flying Pigs. He's been doing their broadcasts since the Old North State League started a few years ago. But Brad was awesome, man. We would talk for so long before games. We always had great conversations about baseball and just life. And I filled in for him one night, and he popped in toward the end of the game because he was doing something, and we had some great exchanges. But Brad was he was so awesome to work with. It was an honor to fill his shoes for the one night that I filled in for him. He is a great broadcaster, and I hope that I can be at least somewhat like him by the time I develop as a broadcaster. Brad was so awesome. Cameron McGuire in Hendersonville. Cameron was so fantastic at his job. He had a great rhythm to his broadcasts. It was a pleasure and so much fun to be his broadcast partner during the playoffs. He brought great energy to the microphone every time he went behind it. And he was just fantastic to work with those last 3 games that I did this summer. And I really wish him nothing but the best for whatever he decides to do next. So Cameron, thank you for being a great broadcast partner. Gotta thank Josh from Lenore. Josh was definitely the best dressed broadcaster as far as like work attire. But Barry had great style. We'll get to Barry, but Josh always came to the office dressed and ready to go. We always had great conversations before the game as well. His music playlist was spot on in between innings. It was so good that some of the Swamp Foxes made me write down some of the songs he used and put it into our song rotation. So that was a lot of fun. But Josh had a great rhythm to his broadcast as well. Good preparation. It was good to help him out during games, helping him out with jersey numbers of the Foxes a little bit. That was fun. So Josh, thank you for being an awesome broadcaster to work with. Brian Pirtle in Reedsville. Brian, he gave me a big old handshake and a smile when we first met. He's got a great handshake. He was great to interact with. He's a bit more of a bubbly personality guy in the broadcast booth. It was great to work with him over the year. We we were in Reedsville for a doubleheader not right out of the All-Star break, but in the second half, and that was just a fun day for everybody. I helped him out with a few things. We were kind of coordinating the game day logistics that day, so we did a lot of great work together, me and Brian. So Brian, thank you. I wish you the best for what you've got next. Trevor Curl in Swepsonville. Trevor was the very first broadcaster I met in person, and bless his heart, he did not have a lot to work with in Swepsonville. Their setup there it wasn't ideal just where he was put, but he made it work. His preparation, he spent so many hours preparing for games, probably more than I did preparing for games, and he made sure he had his facts straight. And we were actually the quote-unquote broadcast team, the broadcast all-stars for the all-star game. He was the West broadcast, or he was the East broadcaster, I was the West broadcaster, and we worked together for the home run derby. I'm really bummed that all-star game got rained out and there was no chance to make that up. But we had a fun home run derby together, and we did a lot of great work during the year. Trevor is so skilled at what he does, and he's going to find a job in the industry someday, just with how much he prepares to go to work and just how knowledgeable he is about the game after playing in college. So Trevor, it was a pleasure to work with you this year, man, and I wish you nothing but the best. Then Andrew Motzinger in Mecklenburg. Andrew was just so chill. He was a former ball player. He actually played college where the Mecklenburg Muscadines played for the Old North State League. It's a beautiful ballpark out there, Jack Hughes Park in the city of Pineville, just north of the North Carolina border. But Andrew and I, we always got along so well, and we just did a great job coordinating on game days, and he always welcomed me into the booth. He always offered to buy me food at the concession stands when I was there, which was super nice of him. I've got to bring up Barry from the Sandhills Bogies. I briefly met Barry once during All-Star Weekend on that Saturday. He was the one of the coaches of the Sandhills Bogies who actually won the championship. Barry was so awesome. He always had full-on golf gear on. The Bogies were kind of like a golf-themed team. He was always dressed in gear like that. He's just a great energy guy to be around. It was great to meet him in person and interact with him a little bit during that All-Star day. He was kind of like the sideline reporter in a sense of the Home Run Derby, which was super fun. No, Barry is one of one. He is such a fun guy to be around, and I'm glad that I got to be in his presence just once this year. It was really awesome to be around him. I have to give a huge, heartfelt thank you to just all of the parents and the families of players, not just with the Swamp Foxes, but everyone around the league that I interacted with this year. The amount of love and respect and support and the thanks that I got for just doing my job from all of those people, it kept me going. Like, it kept me inspired and motivated to keep doing my job, because a true broadcaster, like, they don't just broadcast the game, like, they tell the stories of these players' lives. Like, baseball is these guys' lives at this stage in the game, and it's kind of make or break for a lot of these guys. And the parents they were so appreciative of just how I approached my job, not just with the Swamp Foxes. I remember talking to Max Stocco's father in Lenore one night. He was a Lenore legend. I talked to a few other sets of parents. The Hendersonville parents and families in the the postseason break atmosphere were absolutely fantastic. They all gave me and Cameron heartfelt thanks for doing those broadcasts. But just the amount of outpouring and love that I got from player parents. I've got to mention a few Swamp Fox families by name. The Hemmerlings were an awesome family to be around. The Adelsons, the Scotts, the Jankys, the Brocks. Ben Barnes' family was so much fun to be around. And then I have to give the biggest thanks to the Goff family. Ryan Goff's parents, they were so nice to me all year. We always had great conversations before and after games, and they actually gave me a gift before I left the state. So that was super, super nice of them, and they didn't have to do that, but they did it anyway. So just the outpouring of love from all of the families that I got this year, it meant the world to me. So thank you to everybody. And then the last guy I'm going to thank before going through the Swamp Fox roster, the scoreboard operator and my quote-unquote color commentator, Avery Blankenship. Avery and I, our relationship developed over the year. We got more and more comfortable with each other in the booth. And it got to a point where we were really just kind of going back and forth during broadcast. He was kind of my color guy. He did the home scoreboard for Swamp Fox games in Marion, but Avery he was so much fun to be around. He was funny. He was a funny guy, and he was just so great to be around. He made the booth so much more fun, and my family always loved hearing him chime in over the live streams. And he was so fun to be around. He's going to college in Georgia soon, so Avery, I wish you nothing but the best. You were so fun to be around in the booth this year. And then the group of guys I have to thank most are the Swamp Fox players. Like, there was a period where we were all like getting into camp and getting to know each other, but once we all got to know each other, they really welcomed me in as one of their own. Like, they could have like just interacted with me the bare minimum, like as the broadcaster, like, and just left it at that. They could have not given me the time of day to do anything, but every single one of them, and I truly mean that, every single Swamp Fox that I interacted with this summer, they were all so nice to me, and they welcomed me in like I was one of them. And they just treated me so well, and I cannot put into words how much that meant to me. And I think the thing that really hit home was when I got hit in the head with that ball. 2 guys took me to the hospital, and when I got out from getting stitched up, there were 6 of them waiting for me in that hospital lobby. And that one really touched my soul. Like, it really meant a lot to see that. Like, I had a lot of guys in my corner, especially that's the furthest away I've been from home for that long amount of time. Like, here at Iowa State, I'm 2 hours away from home. Like my family's within reaching distance. Like, if anything bad happens, they can be here in 2 hours. But I was halfway across the country this summer. I didn't see my immediate family for 2 months, and my lifeline was really the Swamp Foxes. And when I was in the hospital, they were there for me. Like, none of them had to take me. None of them had to stay and wait for me. There were guys that went out of their way to make sure that I was okay. And that's baseball, man. Like, the relationships that I built with these guys, we are from all over the country, and we only knew each other for a short time, but the amount of love and respect that we all have for each other, that we all built up in such a small amount of time, I can't really explain in words what that's like and how special that is. It just meant so much to have those guys welcome me in the way that they did. And I'm just gonna go through the roster in numerical order to thank you. So the first guy I've got to mention, Oliver Zahn. Ollie was a funny guy to be around, man. He was the team chirper, if you will, but he relished that role. He has the first home run in Swamp Fox history. Here's a photo off of the Twitter page, but he has the first home run in Swamp Fox history. This was the inaugural season of the Swamp Foxes. He hit a great ball over the fence in Swepsonville on opening day, and that's something that he should carry with him for the rest of his life. He was fast, man. It was so fun to watch him run the bases. He could stretch a long single into a triple just effortlessly. He was so fast, and it was so fun to watch him work. And Ollie was on the field with me when I got hit with the ball. He's actually the one who hit the ball in the air. It was not his fault whatsoever, and I've told him that repeatedly, but he still feels so bad. He felt bad at the time, but one thing that really meant a lot is as soon as he really got up close and saw what was going on, like I was bleeding down my face. He whipped the shirt off of his back just effortlessly, without a second thought. He whipped his shirt off of his back and he gave it to me to stop the bleeding. And he waited in that freezing hospital lobby for 2 hours without a shirt to wait for me to get stitched up. That really meant a lot. So Ollie, thank you for that, and I'm sorry about your shirt. Number 4, Lucas Scott. Lucas was so fun to watch this season. I was primarily a first baseman back in my playing days, and I'm not sure if I told Lucas this personally, but I've told a lot of other people this. If there was a type of first baseman that I wanted to be, Lucas Scott was that guy. He was a fantastic defender. He was so limber for his size. He was just kind of a bigger dude, and he was just so limber and nimble down there at first base. He was such a great defender, and he was such a clutch hitter. He was always so good with runners in scoring position. He always rose to the occasion offensively. I think he was tied for the league leader in RBI by this time the season ended, and that was because he hit with runners on. And it was just so awesome to watch him play this season. And he's just a first baseman that I wanted to be growing up. So, Lucas, it was fun to watch you play this year, man. Number 5, Zach Wall. Wall was Z-Wall. Well, he was so fun to be around, man. My family, I come from a family of catchers. My mom was a catcher. My sister was a catcher. Catching was one of my secondary positions when I played. But my family loved watching Z-Wall catch. He is so good back there, so nimble. Great offensively, too. He was voted an all-star in the Old North State League this year on the west side. So well-deserved from him. He was very athletic. I remember he started a game in right field, and he made a nice catch out there. And he joked that he would tell his grandkids about that catch someday. He made a solid catch out there in right. But I'm actually wearing a Stranger Things shirt right now. He got into Stranger Things over the summer, or at least got caught up with it. And we had some great exchanges after we watched season 4 unfold this summer. Those were some of my favorite conversations with him. We both love that show. But just bottom line, I loved watching Z-Wall work on the diamond, and he's such a nice guy. I think he's going into, if I remember this correctly, I think he's going to be a pharmacist after he's done playing. I think he applied to pharmacy school. He spent a lot of hours on his computer applying for that this summer, so I wish him nothing but the best going forward with that. Number 6, Riley Hokrine. Riley, he was a great guy to be around. He was a bit more stoic in nature, but he had a great sense of humor. And he was always nice to interact with. One of my favorite moments this year was a phenomenal catch that he made this year on Lexington. He laid out for a ball in right field, and he got it in a hurry, and he saved a run from scoring. And I truly believe that catch helped spark a huge Swamp Fox rally in the following half inning that won the Swamp Foxes that game. I truly believe he was the spark of that rally, and that was super awesome. He's had a great week or so this last coming week. I know I follow him on social media. I know that he's been working to hit the ball hard enough to get triple digits off exit velocity. He finally hit 100 miles an hour, and he was so happy. So I'm so happy for him to reach that milestone. So just keep on working, Riley. You're doing great things, man. I wish you nothing but the best. Number 7, Travis Balin. We didn't interact all that much this summer, but Travis was another chill guy to be around. He was funny. He had some nice one-liners around, like, all through the season that I was around to hear. I especially liked his comment about the L scream he used in Lenore to warm up before games. Travis, you might not remember this, but it was a funny one that I remember. That was one of my favorite Swamp Fox one-liners that I heard this season. But he got a solid amount of playing time toward the end of the year. He filled in defensively. I think he played a little bit of outfield too, but he was a solid defender, and he got some good hits toward the end of the year. So I wish him nothing but the best going forward in his playing career. Number 8, Jared Mayer. Jared, he was so funny, man. He was a late arrival to camp. He was one of the later guys coming in. He was a pitcher. His very first game, I think it was the day he came in, it was at the High Point Hush Puppies, best team in the league. He came in and he shut them down. He had a 3-inning save that night, no runs allowed. He pitched so well, and he was one of the guys who went out of his way to wait for me in the hospital. And I think it meant the most to me that he came in, because he knew me for the least amount of time. At that point, I was in the hospital. July 11th was the day I was in the hospital. He was 2 or 3 weeks late to showing up for the Swamp Foxes, but he was one of the 6 guys that waited for me in the hospital, and he's the one who knew me the least time. So it really meant a lot to me that he took time to just come and wait for me. So Jared, thank you for that. I appreciate that, and I'm never gonna forget that from you. Number 10, Matt Lukens, Matty Ice. I don't think I can explain to you guys how good of a defender he was in center field. My favorite line to use about him this season, anything in his zip code that was hit out there to him in center field, he caught. Like, he would just fly out there. He was so good at reading fly balls, much better than me. He was just so clutch out there in center field. If the Old North State League gave out gold gloves, he would get the center field one hands down. He was so fun to watch defensively, and he's just so skilled out there. I truly believe that his defense alone can get him up the ranks in the minor leagues if he chooses to go that route. So Matt, keep doing you, man. You are so fun to watch out there. Number 11, Hunter Griebel. We called him Grease. Grease was... I don't know the exact reason behind his nickname, but I think the reason was he had a mouth. He said some of the most outrageous things, and it was funny, but a lot of it I can't repeat on here. That he was a great pitcher. He was not afraid to attack you in the strike zone and blow you away with his low 80s heater that he set up for strike 3 a lot. That was one of my favorite things that he said over the year. There was a night that I played cards with some of the guys over the All-Star break, and he was my cards partner for, I think it was Kemp's, the game that we played, or something like that. But I think we won virtually every round we played of that, purely because he was so good. He's the best. He was one of the best card players I played with. So unfortunately, his season did get cut short right before the postseason because he hurt his UCL. So Grease, if you're watching this, I hope your recovery's going well, and I wish you nothing but the best. Number 12, Brendan Reed. His smile was contagious, man. He had one of the best smiles on the team. He always stayed loose out there on the mound. He was super fun to watch. He really got hot in the middle of the season, and when he was locked in, there was not a lot you could do to get hits on him. He was so fun to watch. He's got a bright future ahead of him. And we didn't interact personally a lot this season, but he was always super nice, super down-to-earth guy, but he just had great energy. He went out there and did his job, but he made sure he had fun while doing it. So Brendan, it was super fun to watch you play this season, man, and I hope whatever you do next goes well for you. Number 13, Zach Morales, Zemo. He was the slugger out of Penn State Abington. He was the home run derby runner-up, but he hit the most homers. He had 9 home runs. He hit all of them in the first 2 rounds. It was so fun watching him swing in batting practice. He just crushed baseballs, man. He was so fun to watch. Him and I were both big Star Wars fans. We always exchanged notes after Kenobi episodes that came out over the summer. He was the one who drove me to the hospital the night that I got hit in the head. So I get to tell my grandkids one day that when I got my scar, a home run derby runner-up drove me to the hospital. So that's going to be a fun tidbit I get to tell my grandkids. But he stayed in the hospital the entire time I was there with Oliver Zahn. And he drove me back as well. So, Zemo, if you're watching this, I really appreciate everything you did for me that night and how cool you were about the whole thing. So I really appreciate that, man, and I hope everything goes well for you going forward. Number 15, Evan McDade. McDade, he's a funny guy, man. We had a lot of funny exchanges over this season. He had a lot of great one-liners as well. He shared some funny stories of his that I can't exactly repeat on here, but they were really funny. He was a lockdown guy, man. Every time he went out on the mound, he just pitched such great stuff. Hilariously blunt is what I wrote down on my notes. He is so blunt and so honest with you, to a fault sometimes, but it was super funny. His free time antics, he just messed around, and it was so fun to watch. So he brought great energy to the team. So McDade, if you're watching this, I really appreciated interacting with you this season, and he was one of the guys that stayed in the hospital to wait for me. He went out of his way to wait for me in the hospital, so that meant a lot. So McDade, thank you. Number 16, Ryan Goff. Ryan Goff is the definition of a competitor. He is such a fun guy and so relaxed to be around off the field, but when he gets on the field, he just enters the zone, and that killer instinct kicks in, and whatever he put his mind to, he did well. He pitched a few times, he played middle infield, he hit well, he just went out and did the work, and he put in so much work outside of really what was expected of him by the coaching staff. Most nights after home games, I would be sitting in the lobby working on putting stats into the league, and he would be in the cage hitting baseballs, getting better. And him and his family was so awesome. I think it's Greg and Amy Goff. They treated me so well all season long. They were great to interact with, and they've all invited me to West Virginia if Iowa State ever has any sporting events there. They've welcomed me out there to West Virginia, so that really meant a lot. Brian and I just had a lot of good conversations about anything and everything over the summer. We always had great conversations. I remember trying to help him out one day. He took I think it was an awkward swing he had one night, and he tweaked his wrist. He got quote-unquote x-rays from the local hospital, and I tried to help him get his x-rays into a format that he could email. That was a whole adventure that didn't even really pan out. So that was an interesting morning that I had with him that one time, trying to help him with his x-rays. But Ryan, you were so fun to watch this year, man. And I'm going to bring up Nick Morola here in a minute. You and Morola were such a fun double play combo to watch this season. It was a real treat. And then we've got number 17, Ethan Shmoney. Shmoney was his main nickname. He made an immediate impact once he got to the team. He's out of, or at least I believe he's committed to the Akron Zips in Ohio. He was a late arrival to camp as well. I think, did he debut the same night as Jared Mayer did? I think no. That was the night before that Shmoney debuted, but I think Shmoney went like 8 for 9 with 4 or 5 RBI to start the year. He had an outfield assist in his first game that was amazing. He's just a great player, a great versatile outfield defender. He has such a bright future ahead of him in college baseball and hopefully beyond. I truly believe that he can make it beyond once he develops. He was just so fun to watch. He was always so nice to me, especially starting out. I managed to have a chance to introduce myself to him that first night, and he always made sure to say hi to me when we passed by. And really everybody did that when I walked by them at camp. Like, we would always exchange like some sort of greeting walking by, but Ethan always made sure to go out of his way to greet me. So that one really meant a lot. So Ethan, thank you. And then number 18, Nick Morola. Nick Morola, he was so fun to be around this year, man. His karaoke rendition of Firefly, for lack of a better term, had the whole squad laughing. It was so funny. He had great energy on and off the field. He had a scary injury in the middle of the season in a practice. He took a line drive to the head in practice. We thought he was done for the season, but he made a miraculous recovery. I have no idea how he recovered the way he did. But he came back in the second half, and he came back like he never left. I think he had 2 hits in his first game back and just went from there. I think he finished the season batting .395, if I remember correctly. But he was just so fun to watch, and the improvement that he made over the season, even after his injury. Him and Ryan Goff in the middle infield, they would exchange between second base and shortstop all the time. It didn't matter where those two were. They fed each other so well defensively, and the playoffs are where they shine the most defensively, both Morola and Goff. They had some plays that just had my jaw drop out there. But Nick Morola, great ball player, great guy to be around. I'm so glad that he recovered well from his injury, because it could have gone so much worse for him. So Nick, if you're watching this, thank you. You were such a fun guy to be around, and I hope that highlight reel I made is going to help you out. Number 19, Noah Canterbury. Noah left the Swamp Foxes after a few weeks to go to a different league, but he was a fun guy to be around. I was fortunate enough to say goodbye to him personally the night before he left. I believe he ended up in West Virginia. But his big thing, everybody always said he was best at 2 things, baseball and fishing. He was our big fisherman at Big League Camp. We lived by Lake James, out in North Carolina. He was a big catfishing guy, just fishing guy in general. He was super fun to be around. He had a good sense of humor. So no, even though we didn't interact a lot, I miss you, man, and I hope you're doing well out wherever you are, whatever you're doing. And then number 20, Jason Hemmerling. Jason, it was such a treat and a privilege to be around him this summer, man. He is such a down-to-earth guy. I think he's the first Swamp Fox player that came up and introduced himself to me and talked to me. I remember the first day that some of the guys came in, we did batting practice, and we struck up a side conversation. He came up to me and we started talking about, I don't quite remember what it was, but I remember that he came up and talked to me. He was really the first guy to initiate a conversation with me among the players. He was a huge Stranger Things fan as well. We exchanged theories and notes and just our thoughts about season 4 all summer long. That was so much fun with him. One thing that has really meant a lot to me, he's a big fan of the YouTube channel. That's what I'm doing right now, this very second. He advertised it on his Twitter, which I still need to get. I never get Twitter, and I need to get it. But he advertised it on his Twitter, and that really meant a lot to me. So he made sure that the stuff that I put together for the Foxes at least got out there. So Jason, thank you. You were always so nice to me, man, and I will always appreciate that from you. You were so fun to watch. Number 21, Will Vineyard. I didn't interact with Will a lot because he had an injury in the only game he pitched this year. He was recovering from a torn labrum, and he came back and he pitched and he re-injured it. So I really do hope, Will, that you return to baseball if you can, and I just wish you nothing but the best in your recovery. We didn't interact a lot, but you seem like a really nice guy, really chill guy, and I just hope everything works out for you. Number 24, Quinn Adelson. We called him Q. He was... I don't even know how to describe how good he was. He just went out there. He was a competitor. He's definitely in that competitor category with Ryan Goff, like just complete hardcore, locked in on the field. He's very hard on himself, and I can understand that. I was the same way as a player. He's very hard on himself. He holds himself to a high standard, and he played super well this year. I advocated for him to be an all-star just with how well he did. I mentioned that he tied for the team lead in RBI with Lucas Scott. Q had 2 grand slams this year. And I got to call the second one. That was the first ever Old North State League home run at Big League Camp. That was super fun to call, but he was just so fun to watch. A great third baseman defensively. He had some rocket throws out there. He did great. I saw him evolve in his approach at the plate. He became a lot more disciplined over the year. His walk numbers went through the roof once he made an adjustment at the plate. So he was super fun to watch. So Quinn, thank you for a great summer, man, and I wish you nothing but the best. Number 27, Devin Smith. Devin, what did I write down here? He just gave off those like chill Zen vibes. I think he had pit viper glasses that he wore everywhere. He was one of our catchers in the rotation. He was fun to watch. He was always friendly with the umpires behind the plate. The quote-unquote fun game we had in Hendersonville at the end of the year, he was the starting pitcher, and he didn't do all that well. I mean, he's a position player. I couldn't have done any better than him, but he was smiling ear to ear out there on the mound. He had so much fun out there. He said that's the most fun he's ever had on a ball field, and he just soaked it all in and had fun. And most of the fun sound effects that I had on the live streams that I put for like caught base runners and strikeouts, most of them, if not all of them, were his idea. He brought it up to me, I put it into the rotation, and everybody loved it. So Devin was really the brain behind a lot of the fun sound effects that I used this year. So, oh yeah, I'll bring this up a little bit later, but I appreciated how he was late to live at-bats one day over the All-Star break that resulted in me catching for Brandon Janky. We'll get to that in a minute. But Devin, thank you for a great summer, man, and I wish you nothing but the best. I know I've said that about everybody, but I truly wish everybody nothing but the best going forward. Number 29, Matt Brock. Matt Matt Brock was so fun to be around this summer. We both had a mutual respect for each other, and he wants to make it. I can see it in the way that he conducts himself and just the way that he approaches the game. He really flipped the switch toward the end of the season. I think there was a stretch of 2 games in a row, or it was 2 of 3, where he had 17 strikeouts in 2 games. So he just turned it up toward the end of the year. He was just so fun to be around. We always had great conversations about everything. We bounced back and forth about his pitching mechanics and just everything that he approached there. He would come and literally chill in the press box before games, soak in the air conditioning before he had to warm up for home games. He was among the crew that waited for me in the hospital, and I made a highlight reel for him and then tweaked it again, and he said a really sincere thank you to me. That meant a lot. When I put together a second version of a highlight reel I made for him to send to coaches. So Matt, you are one of the favorite guys that I was around this summer, and I truly hope that our paths cross again and we see each other again. You were so fun to be around, and I hope everything works out for you. I want to see you in the big leagues one day. I'm holding you to, I want to broadcast a game at Wrigley Field that you play at. I want that to happen so bad. Number 30, Garrett Bugarin. Garrett, what words are there to describe Garrett? He was another one of those cool Zen guys. He had so many great stories again that I can't repeat on here. He always had great stories. He had a lot of great one-liners. His sense of humor was amazing. I went to Minions movie with him. He was one of the guys I went to that movie with. I believe I went with him, Owen Crevelt, and Adrian Lugo. Adrian I'll bring up later, and Owen Crevelt. But I went to that movie with Garrett, and the day after I got hit with the ball, I went straight to the doubleheader with the guys in Mecklenburg. And after the game, he spent a little bit of extra money. Like he added a tip to his food order at the Minions movie and got like a little Minions pin. I'll actually put the photo up here, but he gave that to me the day after I got hit, and I'm sure to him it was a very small gesture, like, oh yeah, have this, but it really meant a lot to me. Like, I'm gonna remember whenever I go home and like look at my Swamp Fox hat and see that pin on my hat, I think of Garrett. So that small gesture meant so much to me at the time, and it still does to this day. So Garrett, we had a lot of great interactions this summer. You were so fun to watch. You were a lockdown defender in left field, and I wish you nothing but the best. He's actually an RA out at Wagner like I am, so maybe we'll have some fun stories to exchange after a few months here in the RA position. Number 31, Brandon Janky. Janky was a freaking animal on the mound, man. He was so fun to watch. He had one of the best smiles on the team as well. He's a Wisconsin guy, Midwest guy like me. It was great to interact with him and his parents. I got the chance to meet his parents toward the end of the year. They're super nice people. But Janky was just so fun to watch, man. The night that he threw his complete game shutout, only gave up 1 hit. I think he had 12 strikeouts. He was the one guy I didn't have a walk-up song for at the time. And I just played a random song on my playlist, and it was The Distance by Cake. And he literally went the distance that night, and from that night forward, that was his walk-up song. So that was a super cool moment that year, this summer. And the aforementioned Devin Smith being late to catching him, I dressed up in catcher's gear. I'll put the photo up here again. But I dressed up in catcher's gear, and I warmed him up. I didn't full-on catch him. I would have, make no mistake, I would have if I had an athletic cup, but I didn't. I found some spare gear around the facility, and I helped him warm up, which was a super cool experience. So now I get to say that I helped warm up a future MLB prospect. I truly believe that Janky can make the big leagues just with how nasty his stuff is. Janky was among the hospital crew as well. He's really the first familiar face I saw when I turned the corner. He was the first face I saw, so it was nice to see him show up. I believe he was wearing his Giannis Antetokounmpo shirts, big Bucks fan. So he was wearing that in the hospital. I don't know why I remember that, but I remember driving him home from the All-Star game rain out. He hitched a ride with me, so we had a nice car ride back. But he was one of my favorite guys to interact with this summer, and I know in my bones that he's going to be just a fantastic pitcher going forward, so I can't wait to watch Janky work. Number 33, Owen Crevelt. Words can't describe just, first of all, how great of a person Owen Crevelt is and how much his interactions meant to me this summer. Once we got to know each other even a little bit, he always acted so happy and excited whenever he saw me. We gave fist bumps, high fives to each other all year long. I made him a highlight tape, but Owen, anytime I interacted with Owen, from any small interaction to a big conversation we had, any interaction that I had with Owen Crevelt made my day. There are not words to describe just how great of a guy he is. He's so friendly with everyone. He's so funny. He just does some of the most random and funny things, and I was just laughing so hard whenever he did anything like that. But yeah, our interactions always meant so much to me. He had some of my favorite moments. I think the very first highlight tape, or just regular highlight I made on the channel, he came in late in a game. He was primarily a third baseman. He played some first base too. But he came in and pitched and got a 1-out save out of the bullpen. And he had a nasty curveball for strike 3. And he told me after that game that, like, he strained his glute or something, doing something in the dugout. But the crazy thing is, even after getting that save, the following day he DH'd at a game in Reedsville, and he hit a no-doubt home run over the left field fence. That might have been in his, I want to say that was in his first at-bat, either his first or second at-bat, but that was just a fantastic, like, stretch of 24 hours for him, or 36 hours, I guess. That was one of my favorite stretches to see. He sat between me and Tripp in the quote-unquote fun bus that only lasted about half the season, maybe only a third of the season, just with the way we had to shuffle transportation around the league. But Tripp drove, I sat in the passenger seat, and then Owen was in that seat behind us. He kind of leaned forward, talked to me and Tripp most of those drives, so that was super fun. Karaoke with him in the car. Van karaoke in the fun van was so great, with him especially. I was so happy that I got like a personal and somewhat intimate goodbye with him. I remember the night that the Swamp Foxes got eliminated in the first round, everybody was coming back. Tripp was packing up his stuff late at night. It was like 1 a.m. We were all up. But I know all of the California boys, Garrett, Matt, Brock, and then Owen came in. I got a photo with Owen right before he left. That's one of my favorite photos I took this summer. Oh, I also have to throw this beauty on the screen. That was my lock screen for pretty much the whole season since he took that photo, and I only changed it like today when I went to an Iowa Cubs game and was hoping to see Frank Schwindel on the field. But the bottom line, I cannot give enough appreciation and thanks to Owen just for everything that he meant to me this summer and just how nice he was to everyone he was around. He brought so much positive energy to everyone around him, and I wish him nothing but the best back out in California. Number 34, Ben Barnes. Ben, he had great energy as well. He was a late arrival to camp. One of my favorite moments this year, his very first start in Lexington, he was a bit shaky starting out the game. He loaded the bases with nobody out, but from that point forward, he locked it in. He got out of that first inning, not giving up any runs, and I don't think he gave up any earned runs that game either. I could be wrong on that, but I don't think I am. But he had a great personality to be around them. Was he one of the guys that waited in the hospital? He didn't wait for me in the hospital, but he did give me like the concussion test after I got hit in the head, so that meant a lot to me. He asked me all the baseline questions. He said I did good. Passed all the questions well. But yeah, he was with me on the field when I got hit, and he made sure I was okay, so that meant a lot. His family, it was so much fun watching baseball with his family. They were so nice. We all went ballistic when Ben hit that 3-run double in the fun game in Hendersonville. That was such a great moment. One of my other favorite moments of the season was when he pitched in Lenore and he taped 69 to the back of his shirt because he didn't have a jersey yet. I thought that was so funny. I got a real kick out of that. That's just the kind of humor that Ben has, and just the kind of energy he brings to the table. He was great karaoke singer, great country karaoke singer in the Fun Van. I think he was the very first guy I got a social media handle from on Snapchat, so we kept in communication with that a lot. So Ben was a late arrival, but he made an immediate impact. So Ben, thank you for bringing a great presence to the Swamp Foxes this summer. And then last on the roster, and certainly not least, number 42, Adrian Lugo. We call them AD. He was so fun to watch this season as well. He had some great games on the mound. He lived in the weight room at Big League Camp. He was always up early, working out, putting in the work. And he was a really funny guy as well. I think he's gonna go into forensics or something like that. I believe once he's done with college. He's already said that this upcoming year is going to be his last year in college. AD, if you're watching this, just don't be too hard on yourself, man. Like put in the work and do all that stuff, but just enjoy your time in the sun, man. I miss my playing days so much, even though I wasn't that good, but just soak in your time in the sun, man. Have fun with it. Oh yeah, I forgot about this. We weren't in the hospital at the same time the day I got hit, but earlier that day he like sprained his big toe and got it checked out at the hospital earlier that day. So multiple Swamp Foxes, I guess, in the McDowell Hospital that day. I think that's what the name of the hospital was, but he was a big film guy as well. He was always looking at his film and something to tweak with his mechanics. He just has so much passion for bettering himself in the game of baseball, and it was really fun to watch, and we had some great exchanges. We went to the Minions movie together. I think he made a brief appearance in my short, but he was just a great guy to be around. So I believe he's back at home in Puerto Rico. So AD, if you're watching this, thank you for being a great guy to interact with this summer. And we still have streaks on Snapchat, so we keep in contact. It's been great to keep in contact with him. And on that note, this video, oh my God, I've been recording for 1 hour and 8 minutes. I didn't think it would take this long, but yeah, I just wanted to take the time to just individually thank everybody. And to any Swamp Fox players, I've already said this. If you need a place to stay, futon's right there. Just how much this summer meant to me, I can't put it into words. This is the best I could come up with to put it into words, but just a heartfelt thank you, and I really mean this, to every single Swamp Fox who welcomed me in as one of their own, to all of the people that I worked with, and just everybody that made this summer possible. I truly feel like I springboarded my broadcasting career this summer, and I made so many good connections and relationships that will last the rest of my life. I talk to a lot of these guys several times a week. I know I talked to Matt Brock. He showed up. He went to a Athletics Angels game where Ohtani pitched and hit a home run. We exchanged notes on that. I was watching some of that on ESPN the other night. To any of the Foxes out there, even the smallest interactions that y'all had with me, it really touched me. Because again, I'm just the broadcaster. Like, you guys could have interacted with me the bare minimum and it would have just been left at that. But every single one of them interacted with me more than they absolutely had to. And I was closer with some guys than others, but every single one of them made sure to, like, we all had like some kind of nice moment over this season, and that meant the absolute world to me. Just everybody on that team just really welcoming me as one of them, and that really gave me something that, to a level that I didn't really have during my playing days. I didn't play travel ball. I just played at 2 or 3 fields in my hometown pretty much my whole life, my whole baseball life, I guess, playing career. But I got to travel with the guys this summer and be at a beautiful facility with a lot of great people, just amongst the beauty of the Blue Ridge Mountains in North Carolina, and it truly does feel like a dream. But again, I look at this scar in the mirror. Not only does it look cool, but it's a reminder of the best summer of my life, and really one of the best 2-month stretches of time I've had in my entire life. So from the very bottom of my heart to everyone, especially the Swamp Fox players and the staff that I work with there. Thank you. You truly made my life better, and I will never, ever forget this summer until the day I die. So I've been talking for 70 minutes, dear God. I need to go to bed. Yeah, that's what I've got. I feel like I have so much more I want to say. That's the best I can really do, putting it into words. I can't put into words how much everything meant to me this summer. And I'm going to try and come back. Probably not this summer, but summer 2024. I'm definitely going to look into coming back to the Old North State League for sure. Hopefully the Swamp Foxes again. But it was just something out of a dream, out of a movie, man. It was so fantastic. And I couldn't have asked for anything better. So thank you.